Welcome back to another RW podcast. I'm really excited. We've got a special guest. We have Hunt Simple. Now, Hunt Simple is one of the OGs of YouTube for me. I know I've said this story like a year and a half ago, but Hunt Simple has always been one of my favorites. I respect him and admire what he's done on YouTube, and it's just great to have you back here, Hunt Simple. How you doing?
Hey, hey, thanks for having me back. Yeah, I appreciate it, and been watching a ton of your content, and it's exciting to see all the different stuff you're doing.
Yeah, testing a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah,
But I thought me and you would have a fun little cartridge discussion. Okay. We're going to talk about, I would say, most North American big game. And we're going to say what the ideal cartridge, our opinion on the ideal cartridge for every North American big game. Not every, but almost all of them. Okay.
yeah,
And
let's
the
do it.
rules we set is we can't have the same cartridge for more than one animal.
Okay,
Now,
okay,
me and you, it's likely we're going to pick the same cartridges, and that's fine. But we're going to pick a cartridge for each animal with your preferred bullet choice for each
all
animal.
right.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay. You're the guest. So let's start you off. We're going to start off with the pronghorn. What are you choosing?
Yeah, so I thought about that a little bit, and I'm going to go with 243 Winchester,
Okay.
and a couple reasons for that. One, I think it can be had in really lightweight rifles that are easy to carry out in the desert, long distances, open country. Pretty flat shooting,
Mhm.
and plenty of juice for a smaller bodied animal.
What's your bullet of choice?
You know what? I jotted down a 90 grain AccuBond.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a great bullet. Okay. So my personal choice is a brand new cartridge. I feel like it's made for pronghorn, and that's the 25 Weatherby RPM. As far as bullet choices, I think I'm going to go with the 117 grain Barnes LRX. It's a brand new bullet. I've been having some fun testing with it. It's fast. Even in a 22-inch barrel, I'm getting over 3,200 feet per second in sub MOA. So that would be my choice. I just want
That's a
something
great
flat
choice.
shooting. Next, we're going desert bighorn sheep.
Oh, wow.
What have you got?
Well, when I think about sheep, I think about the kind of country they live in. And,
Hmm.
a lot of times you're wanting to anchor that animal. You don't want them rolling 1,000 feet down some rock slope or whatever, even a desert bighorn. So I picked the 7 WSM.
Really?
I did.
Wow.
I'm wanting something that's flat but still brings a lot of juice. And
Okay.
I had not note another AccuBond, 160 grain AccuBond.
That's a great choice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick something pretty similar. This might
Okay.
surprise you. I'm going to go 6.8 Western,
Oh, right on.
okay, with a 165 grain AccuBond long range. I think we could easily push that over 3,000 feet per second. The 6.8 Western, I really like the 6.8 Western. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be my just because bighorn or desert bighorn, these are going to be longer shots than we're used to, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I
And
want something flat shooting.
I exactly. And steep country, high, pretty rugged as far as you're not going to want to pack a 9 or 10 pound rifle into that stuff either.
I
You
probably
know,
would.
you probably would.
Yeah.
I'd be looking for something at 6.5.
Yeah. Okay, let's go mountain goats.
Mountain goat, same thought process, right?
Okay.
I've actually been part of a mountain goat hunt many years ago, and they are a tough critter, and almost for sure they're living where if once you hit them, they're going to roll, and it can get western in a hurry. So I picked 300 WSM,
Wow.
and I'm bringing the 180 grain, another AccuBond, just because I want to penetrate, I want to break those front shoulders and minimize the amount of movement.
Well, Hunt Simple, I'm a little surprised. Neither one of us are like picking the same cartridges, which is great for content.
Yeah.
Okay, so my pick, and I promise, guys, these aren't all going to be Weatherby cartridges, but I'm picking the 6.5 Weatherby RPM with some hand loads with the 143 grain Bond Strike. So I'm
Mm.
kind of with that same thought process. I want something a little more tougher. Uh, Hopefully, it will pass through, being a bonded bullet. And yeah, I really love the Bond Strike. A couple years ago, I had the chance of shooting a 6.5 Weatherby RPM. I fell in love with it immediately. I am not a 6.5 fanboy at all. In fact, I'd probably hate them, but I think the design of that cartridge is really good. Okay, we're gonna completely switch gears here. Whitetail deer.
Whitetail. That's what I grew up hunting. It's something that I'm really passionate about. Hunted them for over 40 years, and to me, it's really interesting, right? A lot of whitetails. You think about thick timber, but there's a lot of whitetail country, and they've expanded to where they live now in the sagebrush and in that kind of transition areas where you can get some long shots. But I still kind of went with a little bit more traditional. I went with a 7mm M08 and 140 grain Sierra Game King.
Okay.
The big whitetail bucks can be kind of tough, but typically, if you get one in the right spot, they're pretty easy to take care of.
Yeah. Well, I've only killed one whitetail deer, and it was a bit overkill. I used my 300 Weatherby, but I'm not going to go. That's not my pick. 300 Weatherby. We'll talk about that later. My actual pick is going to be a cartridge dear to your heart. I'm picking 308 Winchester. I really like 308 Winchester. They're just inherently accurate, pretty mild recoil, just a handy little cartridge. And I think the bullet of choice I'm going to go with is a 165 Nosler ballistic tip. So
that's money. Yeah, and that is, I don't know how many whitetails I've taken with that exact combination that you just listed. It's a perfect choice.
Yeah. I really like 308. I'm going to own one someday.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Okay, let's go to mule deer.
Mule deer, yeah. So when I think mule deer, I think about a little bit more open country. Maybe not that different than some of the country that sheep or whatever live in, higher altitudes, maybe longer shots. And you're kind of noticing maybe some of my cartridge choices are going to be more traditional stuff, given that I'm an old guy, but I went with the 264 Win Mag.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
that is cool.
The 264 Win Mag case looks like it's going 3,500 feet per second just sitting on your desk.
Yeah.
And I picked 130 grain AccuBond. I almost picked the 140 partition, which would be another great choice. 125 grain partition was another thing I thought about. I've used those, but I settled on that AccuBond for those tougher mule deer bucks.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I got to ask you, do you think if the 264 Win Mag came out in like 2018 with a fast twist barrel, do you think it would be pretty popular?
I do. I really do. And I think that with the powders we have now, I always think it's been underloaded. Factory ammo is really slow. A lot of reloading is really slow. With a faster twist and with the right powders, there's a ton of potential there that most people aren't getting to with that cartridge.
I agree. I think getting a 140 grain to 3,200 feet per second would be pretty easy with the right powder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, so. I think so. I think it just came for its time.
Yep, I agree. Okay, let's go to black bear.
Well, hey, you didn't give your mule deer.
Oh, oops. Thanks for catching that.
I got to keep you in line.
I know. Okay. 257 Weatherby. I know it's not as conventional. It's a little bit smaller. But man, there's something about it just shooting stupid flat trajectory. And I'm going to pick a 110 AccuBond. Out of my 257 Weatherby, I'm getting 3,500 feet per second and half MOA. So,
well, for the way I hunt, that's like just hold on the mule deer out to 400 plus and it's over with.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So there'll be some people that say, oh, I want a bigger caliber for a mule deer. They're a little bigger and it's longer, it's further away. But I think there's something to it that Roy knew, that velocity kills.
He knew that. And I think the 25s are great choices for deer. 25-06, 257 Weatherby. These are great choices for all deer size game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Black bear.
Yeah. So I went with my my all-time favorite 308 Winchester on black bears, and picked 165 grain Sierra Game King with the 308 velocities. You know, you don't need a bonded bullet. And that's a combination I've used a lot. It's a combination my dad used a lot. He killed 11 black bears with pretty much that exact load. So yeah, 308, 165 grain Sierra. Typical shots are, you know, here's the way I look at bears. If you're hunting properly with the wind, it's not that hard to get close to bears.
Yeah.
They're busy feeding. They're kind of not paying attention. If the wind's good, you can get in for a decent shot.
Well, my pick is the good old 30-06.
Yeah.
And I'm going to still pick a bonded bullet. I'm going to go a 180 grain bonded bullet, the Bond Strike. It's a very soft bonded bullet. You know, I've been messing with it in a Model 70 featherweight, and it's literally like the only bullet that gun likes. It will do half MOA with that bullet, and I can push that to 2,800 even in a 22-inch barrel. So
yeah, and that's the thing about the 06. It's just that much more velocity than the 308 that it starts making sense to use these bonded bullets for. I think that's a great combo.
Let's go north to caribou.
Yeah, caribou. Between an elk and a deer is kind of the way I think of them. Maybe closer to an elk than a deer in terms of size, but open country. I went with 7 Rem Mag.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I want to take a little heavier bullet in there, but I want it flat, and I went with 160 grain Nosler partition.
Oh.
On that, I would also use the AccuBond, but big believer in the partition, as you know, and you could get those over 3,000. You could get them pushing 3,100 probably out of a big 7.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've talked a little bit about it with you, but I've also showed this gun a lot. There's a Browning X bolt with a fast twist, and we've shot the 160 Barnes LRX. I think he was shooting a little over pressure, but he was shooting it up to well over 3,200 with that 160 grain.
Yeah,
but he has a long barrel.
That was a 26-inch barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I think is great for the big 7. So yeah, I thought that would be ideal for caribou. Open, just a great combination of power and speed.
This is great, Hunt Simple. We have not picked the exact same cartridges. Like, we haven't even talked about the same ones. Like, no, we're not mixing, and this is great. I'm going to go with the same caliber you just picked, but a cartridge I really want one day, and that's 280 Ackley improved.
Nice.
So nice. I understand these shots are could potentially be a little further on the open tundra. I'm going to go 152 grain Barnes LRX. I think that's a great combo. So Barnes made that bullet specifically for that cartridge.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I thought long and hard about a 280 Remington or a 280 AI on some of these. Didn't pick them, but could have easily.
All right, so we're on to some bigger game now. I think it's going to be harder for us not to pick the same cartridge, but I'm really curious what your choice is for elk.
Yeah, elk. We probably did pick the same one. I picked the 300 Weatherby. And another thing that might surprise you, I picked the 180 grain Barnes TTSX.
Okay.
Given the, I would run a bonded bullet with the 300 Weatherby. It's going to push those 180s, as you know. You can get 3,200. You're getting 3,200, and you need a heavy bullet there, so heavy duty bullet. So I went with the TTSX. I think the AccuBond would be great also, but yeah, to me that's the quintessential elk cartridge, and I think we probably share similar thoughts on that.
Yep. Well, I knew it was going to happen, but yeah, my number one elk choice is 300 Weatherby. So that is my official pick. This year, I'm going to be running my 300 Weatherby. I have a really good chance of drawing out on a really good unit for some big bulls, not just spike elk hunting. And so I've developed a load with the 200 grain terminal ascent at 3,055 feet per second. And it easily shoots sub MOA, a lot of times half MOA. That would be my choice, is the 200 grain terminal ascent.
That's such a great choice. And I think that's the thing. And I think a lot of people maybe miss out on is the 300 Weatherby's ability with 200 grainers. It does so well with that heavy, and whereas really, to me, that's where the 300 Win Mag kind of falls short, is it just can't take that longer bullet as well.
No, I love 300 Weatherby.
Yeah, we're on the same page. The versatility of it is amazing too. So
Hmm.
great.
Yeah,
That's
and
so we finally
and you,
had one we.
yeah, and
Yeah,
you've showed the versatility because you've loaded it light and used it for deer, right?
I have. I've loaded it with 125 AccuBonds, and and then I've hunted elk with 150 AccuBonds,
Hmm.
and I was getting 3,500 with those 150s. And so for the way I hunt without compensation, it was lights out to over 400.
Yeah.
And it was very effective.
Well, let's go to moose. And certainly you can hunt moose in the lower 48. I'm more specifically thinking Alaskan moose, so big moose. What
Yeah.
would you pick?
I've hunted moose. I've taken a couple moose and been on some other hunts, and it's interesting. They're big, they're kind of intimidating because of that, but I haven't found them to be super tough to kill. And I also think they're an animal that you can get close to. If the wind's good, you can get close. So I kind of went with a little bit of a different cartridge. I went with a 35 Whalen.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I
I
like
thought
that.
that.
I spoiler, I was really close to adding 35 whale in here, but I didn't. So, but I
I kind
really
of
like it.
I think it's a cool cartridge, and I picked a 225 grain Sierra Game King.
Hmm.
I'm thinking it would just be great. So that was my choice for moose, whether it be lower 48 or Alaska, Yukon. I think it'd be a great choice either way.
I agree. So I'm going the exact opposite of you. I'm going a little crazy here, but since shooting one about a month and a half ago, I've really fallen in love with it. I'm going 3378 Weatherby for moose.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, however, I want it in a custom gun because if I'm burning over 110 grains of powder, I want to maximize the velocity. So I would want it in like a 32-inch barrel, and
Oh
I would
wow.
like to shoot the 200 grain AccuBond at 3,400 feet per second.
Oh my gosh. The energy on that. I can't even imagine what the energy is on that.
Yeah. So not that I'm a long range hunter. I'm not. We won't get into that part of it, but I just prefer not to do that kind of hunting. But man, talk about just lights out performance with the 3378 Weatherby.
Well, and something to add too is uh, when I look at some of this country these moose live in, it can be so thick with brush that's 10 feet tall that you are shooting from maybe a little ridge or a knob, and you've got some longer shots.
Hmm.
So it's something to keep in mind. I think, even though I think a lot of times you can get close to moose, there's times where that bull he might be 400 or 500 yards out there, and you'd have the perfect setup for that with what you just described.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I shot an AccuMark in a 3378 Weatherby, and it was an absolute joy to shoot. It was I don't know how it was pleasant to shoot. The recoil
Well,
was very manageable. It was ridiculously loud, but the gun hammered. It shot sub half MOA easily, which was so surprising
3418.
to me.
that's the thing about Weatherby stocks on the Mark Fives. The way that Monte Carlo slopes away, it takes the recoil away from your face. It's a real thing, and I'm
Oh yeah,
actually surprised. I mean, and they've been doing that for decades. It's on some of my 300 Weatherbys. That thing made all the difference.
yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go with grizzly bear, or if you want to call them like brown bear, like
Like interior grizzlies, like
interior grizzlies.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know, there's folks out there that say that they're actually tougher than the Kodiak bears. That the grizzlies, pound for pound, are tougher, and I
Hmm.
think that's kind of interesting. I've never hunted grizzly bears. I grew up in Montana when there wasn't actually an over the counter tag for them, but it was before I was old enough to get into it. This was
Oh,
back in the 70s and 80s. But hey, I picked a 300 or a 338 Win Mag.
That's great.
And I'm going with the 200 grain AccuBond or the 210 partition. I'm going to just, instead of going with the heavier, I really like that 210 grain range for the 338. So that's kind of what I picked. Again, you want to anchor these things right there. You don't want to be chasing them around in the brush wounded.
I assume you saw that one video from, oh, who's the Alaskan couple that hunt? You had mentioned it to me in a comment before, where they were hunting an interior grizzly in Alaska, shot it with a 338 rum from a distance. Man, I can't remember. Like, is it Hunt in the Rut or something?
Is that stuck in the rut?
Stuck in the Rut. Yeah. Did you ever see that video?
Not that one. I've seen a lot of theirs, but that
I'll
doesn't
have to text it to you. It was intense and crazy.
Okay.
They used a 338 rum with hand loads with a 225 AccuBond. Long story short, the hand loads were way over pressure. He basically got his bolt stuck in his gun, and the grizzly came after them, and he had to kill it with a handgun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's something everyone should watch. It's crazy. So with all of that, maybe I'm a little undergunned when I say what mine is, but I guess I'm going 28 Nosler. And maybe now I'm kind of regretting a little bit thinking about it, but I have a lot of respect for the 28 Nosler. As a hunting cartridge, I think it's extremely good. It's not really a precision cartridge unless you put it in an extremely heavy precision gun. You're not going to get the same accuracy you will out of like a 7 PRC or others, but it's just a hammer. And the bullet of choice I'm going to go with is a 160 grain Barnes LRX. So I'd get a fast twist 28 Nosler. But again, I'm kind of second guessing on that. Maybe I need to go to a 338.
Well, I mean, like always, right? It's going to come down to shot placement. If you put that Barnes where it needs to go, it's going to be a quick deal. But I think their central nervous system is wired so differently than any of the other animals we've talked about. It's just a different critter.
Well, let's go to the biggest, well, not the biggest, but the second biggest bear up there. Let's go to Kodiak brown bear. What are you picking?
Let's do it. Yeah. You know what? I went back and forth on a couple different choices, and I ended up with a cartridge that, I'm sure a lot of people that watch your channel will know about, but it's the 358 Shooting Times Alaskan.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Lane Simpson, a necked up 8mm Remington mag. He had some other interesting cartridges too, but I picked that one, and I picked a 250 grain Nosler partition as the medicine for that one.
So for people that don't realize what an 8mm Rem mag is, think of a 300 Weatherby without the double radius shoulder, necked up to 8mm, because that's exactly the same case.
Yeah,
it's just no double radius shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's kind of what I went with. I was thinking about a 358 Norma mag, but the 358 Shooting Times Alaskan has a decent advantage over the 358 Norma.
Okay, that's a great choice. I'm going to go a little later than you, but definitely just as powerful. I'm going 340 Weatherby Magnum with the 250 grain AccuBond. I'm not taking my deluxe up in the rain and all of that crappy weather on those islands. So I would get it in an AccuMark.
There you go.
I'd take it up in an AccuMark. 250 grain at 2950. I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's going to bring everything you need to make it count.
Okay, I have one surprise question for you. You don't know what this is going to be. Okay, thinking of all 11 of those animals, okay, you can repeat an answer, but I want to know, you can only use one cartridge and one bullet for all of them. What is your choice? Oh, also, I'm curious what rifle you would put it in, this cartridge. And you can use something you've already said.
That's a tough question. Finding that balance when there's we're talking from pronghorn to Kodiak, right? You have to err on this. Here's the way I think about it, right? You have to err on the side of you're going to be overgunned for some of it, but you don't want to be undergunned for some of it,
Yeah.
right? It's better to be over than under. You know what? I would go with a 300 Weatherby, and I would run 180s or 200s, either probably AccuBonds or Barnes TTSXs. And that would be something I'd feel comfortable with all 11 of those animals.
Oh yeah. What gun would you get it in?
You know, just to keep it a working man's deal, I'd run a Vanguard.
There you go.
I'd run a Weatherby Vanguard. You bet.
Such a good economical choice. If you
It's
want
a
to get into a
workhorse.
Weatherby cartridge that shoots well and does not break the bank, Vanguard is it.
26-inch barrel on the Vanguard, in 300 Weatherby. You can get it with the stocks are good for all the weather conditions, and you could get it Cerakoted, or I think you for sure can get it Cerakoted. So it's weather impervious, and it's going to work when you need it to.
Okay. Well, I've kind of hinted at this. I'm going 340 Weatherby with a 250 AccuBond. You know, I'm taking pronghorn with the 340 Weatherby, or a whitetail. I've taken one with the 300. So, and I'm going to get it in an AccuMark. You know, I love my Deluxe. It is a gorgeous rifle, and it's accurate enough. The problem is I'm just so scared to take it outside to hunt, especially in weather, that there's a little bit of regret that I probably should have got this gun. I should have got the 340 Weatherby in an AccuMark. That way I wouldn't have cared.
I know exactly what you're saying. The rifles I've had over the years that have pretty wood, beautiful wood on them, I just can't, when I have taken them out, I baby them so much that I'm not even really hunting. And so I get exactly what you're saying with that.
Yeah. This last elk hunt, I really was close to considering taking my Deluxe for a spike elk, but I saw the forecast. It was raining and snowing, and it was just like, no. Well, thank you so much, Hunt Simple, for coming on. This was a great discussion. I thought it was great that we only named one similar cartridge, which is crazy, right? I guess you named a 308, didn't you?
I did for black bears.
Oh, okay. So two cartridges we both named, and that's great for 22 cartridges. That only two of them.
Isn't it cool how it shows us the huge diversity that's out there, right? Of
There's
choices.
So many good choices.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. No, thank you for having me. I love it. Love your channel. I appreciate the chance to collaborate with you.
Yeah. Thank you again, guys. If you're not subscribed to Hunt Simple, go. He does some just great content, just honest, great stuff. So go check him out.